Namaskar. We were talking about 6 substances in the last lecture, and we studied in detail 5 of them: Dharmastikaya, Adharmastikaya, Akasastikaya, Pudgalastikaya and Kal. Today we shall talk about the 6th substance, Jiva. Jiva is translated as Atma or soul, and soul is associated with all forms of life, meaning thereby that all the life which we see on this planet have soul. There can be no life without soul. So a living being has soul and body. So there are 2 different things, body and soul. Body is material, physical, and soul is non-physical. But the 2 exist together they form the life. The primary identifying property of the soul is consciousness, Chetana. So soul has this property of Chetana. Material, Pudgal, doesn't have this property of Chetana or consciousness. So if we look to our existence, we find that our life, I exist as a combination of soul and body. That means soul substance and Pudgal substance. And out of these 2, soul has consciousness and Pudgal doesn't have consciousness. That is, the body doesn't have consciousness. It is the soul which has consciousness. But if I touch my body, I feel it. Who feels this sensation of touch? The body or the soul? The soul has the sensation of touch. The soul feels the sensation. But I am touching the body. I am not touching the soul. That means the soul and body are connected. They have interconnections. Without that, the life does not exist, The 2 substances, soul, the Jiva and Pudgal, they are interactive. They can interact with each other, and combined together they form the life, Other 4 substances are inactive. They do not interact with any other substance. For example, Dharmastikaya, Adharmastikaya, Akas and Kal, they are inactive. They don't interact with any other substance. They are passive agents, help other substances, but they are not active. Pudgal and soul are active substances. They interact and form the life. Jiva is eternal. It never dies. So who dies? The body dies. When we say that death has occurred, that means the body has died in the sense that the soul has left the body. When birth takes place, the soul enters the body. And there is a combination of soul and body, material and non-material. And when the death occurs, the soul leaves the body and we say the person has died. That means the body is now soulless or lifeless. That is death. Jiva's involvement in the cycle of birth and death is beginningless, So, right from time immemorial or beginningless time, the soul has always been associated with the body. Soul has never been a separate substance, So this combination has been existing from beginningless time, meaning thereby that there is a birth and death, the cycle goes on, the soul is eternal, soul lives on, so soul keeps on changing the body one after another. And we have had in the past infinite number of births and infinite number of deaths. That means infinite we have changed infinite number of bodies in the past, For at this time, I exist in a human body, you exist in a human body, and so on. And this cycle of birth and death is due to karma, a concept, which we are going to talk in the next lecture. That is, the soul is in an impure state. It has been existing always in an impure state, It has never been in a pure state. And that impurity of the soul is due to existence of karma. So in my body, that is in my life, I have this body which we can see, which is the gross body. There is another body inside me which is known as a karman body, and that has the karma, which is subtle. We cannot see that. And then there is soul. And I told you that if I touch my body, the soul feels it. The connection between the soul and body is made by karma, the karman body, about which we will talk later on. So there is a system, we have an inbuilt system, and there is a connection between soul and body, and therefore soul experiences through the body. Consciousness of Jiva, which we talked, manifests in two main ways, Jnana and Darshan. So the Chaitanya property of the soul, works as or manifests as, or it is being experienced as Jnana and Darshan. The two very important properties. Jnana is the power of the soul to know. The soul is knower. I know so many things, I know you, I know this table, I know the computer, and so on. And who knows, who has that feeling, who has that sense of knowing? It is the soul. Soul is the knower, not the body. Body is not knower, Body, although has all the organs, sense organs, through which the senses are being made. So we experience all the things outside the external world through our senses, So that's a mechanism in the body. But that's the only physical mechanism. Body does not make any experience. It does not experience. It is the soul which experiences the things through the body. So the soul knows the self, Soul knows the soul. Soul knows I am soul, And soul also knows other objects, Other objects means outside objects, as I mentioned, in any object which I am seeing. So soul is sensing that. Soul also knows the body. Soul knows that the body. And soul knows that the body is different from me, different from the soul. So the two things, soul and body, are different entities, although they are connected. Darshan is power of the soul to perceive. Our perception is due to darshan quality of the soul, And these two qualities together, Jnana and Darshan and Jnana, they work together, and through them, through these qualities, the soul knows the self as well as other objects. Other manifestation of consciousness is in the form of bliss and spiritual power. Soul is blissful, It is always in Ananda state. But we don't experience that, That is because of karma. And then it has a spiritual power. The soul can act. All our activities, whether physical, mental, or verbal, is because of the soul power. If the soul were not there in the body cannot do these activities. A dead body does not have any kind of activity. So all our activities which we are doing is because of the power of the soul. So the soul, this is known as a spiritual power. The soul has this power. Expression of these powers in living being is obstructed by karma. I told you we have a karman body and we have a karma. So these powers, of the soul are not expressed fully. They are expressed only partly. Only a small fraction of the powers of the soul are expressed and we experience them. Just as a cloud, just to explain this, how cloud obstructs the sun, we know if there are clouds in the atmosphere, then we don't get full sun rays, we have a darkness, a partial darkness on the ground, because the sun rays are being obstructed by the clouds. Similarly, this karma form a kind of cloud on the soul, and therefore all the soul powers are not experienced in the body or otherwise. Only a fraction of these powers are being expressed because of karma. But there can be a state, where you remove this karma. This is possible, about which we will talk later on, but it is possible. So for the time being, imagine a condition when all karmas have been removed. Then what will happen? Obviously, the soul will experience all its inner qualities, infinite jnana, infinite darshan, perfect bliss, infinite spiritual power. All these things, all these powers will be experienced by the soul now. So the condition of the soul without karma is nirvana. Nirvana is this thing. Nirvana means you have separated out the soul from the body, from the matter, from karmas and so on, and the soul is now in a pure state. In the pure state, the soul experiences all the powers and it is always blissful. So this is nirvana in Jainism, and this can be done. It can be done by anyone who is able to separate out karma and soul. The soul or the jiva occupies the space of the body. Where is my soul? My soul exists all over the body. This body occupies certain space and the soul occupies the space of the body. So the soul will occupy the space of the body in which it is present at the moment. For example, the soul of an elephant, will occupy the space of the body of the elephant. So, for example, the soul of an ant, will occupy the space, only that small tiny space which the body of the ant occupies. So soul can, expand and contract according to the size of the body. So it occupies the space of the body. In whichever body it exists, it occupies that space. It has that property. We shall now talk about what are the class of jivas, how many types of jiva we have. The first major classification of jiva in Jainism is in the form of that jiva can be mobile, thrust jiva, or it can be sthavar, immobile jiva. That's a major broad classification of jiva. Thrust means all those living beings which are moving. For example, we are moving, elements, you find animals, they are moving, insects are moving, even mosquitoes, ants, they are all moving, worms are moving, and so on. So they are all moving jivas, immobile jivas. They are known as a thrust. There is another category, sthavar or immobile. They cannot move. For example, trees, plants. These jivas, they are also souls, they cannot move, so they are sthavar. So this is just one example, then we will go into the details of this. The sthavar jiva have only one sense of touch, one sense, and that is the sense of touch. Normally, people like us, we normally talk that we have five senses, but plants, trees, and all sthavar jivas, immobile jivas, have only one sense, and that is the sense of touch. So a tree will have only sense of touch. It doesn't have other senses. It doesn't have a smell, or doesn't have eyes or ear or something like this. The sthavar jivas are of five kinds. They are earth-bodied, prathvikaya, water-bodied Apkaya, fire-bodied Teukaya, air-bodied Vayukaya, and Vanaspatikaya. We will see what these living beings are, and these can exist in two forms: fine, sukshma, and badar, that is large size. So all these sthavar jivas can be in a fine size or can be in the large size. Fine size cannot be seen with our eyes, and the large size can be seen. Earth-bodied jiva. What are the earth-bodied jiva? For example, quarry, diamond, coal in mines, stones, metals, ores, etc. All these things which are found in earth, underground, they are earth-bodied jiva. So that means the earth is jiva in a way, because it contains all the things which have life. So a stone has life. The stone in quarry has life. Once it has been cut out and it is out, that is when it has been processed. Then there is no life. The soul has left that body. For example, coal in the mines will have life, but once the coal has been mined and has been taken out, then it doesn't have life. Diamond, when it is in the mines, it has a life. When it has been taken out, abstracted, processed, cut into size on that, it has no life. The diamond which you wear in the earring has no life. The gold which you wear has no life. But the gold, when in the mine, in the form of ore, it has life. Water bodies, the water, dew, snow, fog, etc. have life, They all life. And how beautiful is this thing, the water has life. The science now tells us that a drop of water has got how many life forms, it has thousands and thousands of life forms. But what science tells us, there is in the drop of life there are other living beings. But what Jainism says is the water itself is life. That is a difference between science and Jain philosophy. Fire-bodied, flames, lightning, meteors, salamander, etc. These are the example of fire-bodied beings. They are living beings. Flame is a living being in Jainism. Lightning, which you see in the atmosphere during rainy days, has life. Meteor, which is there in the sky, it has a life. Salamander, there are small insects, which you see in rainy days, which are shining. They have life. Air-bodied beings, tiny beings in air. Air has life, but when the processed air has no life. The processed water has no life. For example, you have a filter in your house and the water is being filtered. The filtered water has no life. So the implication here is this, that earth, water, fire, air, they are all living beings and therefore must be treated with care, with all precautions, Because if you are using, for example, water, you are killing living beings. But you cannot live without water, we know. So the lesson which we take is that you must minimize the use of water so that you have minimum of violence. That is the lesson. So all these things, which are naturally found must be treated with care and their use must be minimized. So you must minimize the use of earth, water, fire, air. Then there are Badar Vanaspati Jiva, the Vanaspati Jiva which we can see. Vegetation and plant, which we know. And from the very beginning, the Jainism said that look here, plants have life. And it's very recently in the last century that Jagdish Chandra Basu proved it in laboratory that plants have life. But this fact was known to us from the very beginning, So Jainism is a very advanced kind of science. And again, the vegetation and plants are of two types. There are Pratyak Sharir and Sadharan Sharir. These two types of vegetation and plants. Pratyak Sharir plant means there is one soul in one body. Examples like tree, mango or orange or papita or so on, papaya and so on. They are all Pratyak Sharir, means that there is one soul in one body. In contrast to this, now there is another kind which is known as Sadharan Sharir, which are many souls in one body. For example, the vegetable which are grown underground, like carrots, garlics, onions, potato, and other roots and tubers. All these things are Sadharan Sharir, means that is one carrot will have many souls, one onion will have many souls. So if you consume these items, then now you are causing hints of many souls, as compared to when you eat a mango, it has only one soul. Sukshma Vanaspati Jiva. These examples which I just now given are Badar, that is the gross type of Vanaspati. But there is also Sukshma or fine kind of Vanaspati. These living beings are called Nigod in Jainism. So they are one sense Vanaspati beings, Nigod. And they are so fine that we cannot see them. You can't see them even with the help of a microscope. And such jivas, Nigod jivas, are found all over Lok, And this I discussed in the last class what is Lok, And these are found all over the Lok. The Tras jiva, the mobile beings, are found in the Tras nadi of the Lok, which we discussed in the last class. The Tras jivas are classified again according to the number of senses, So we have 2 sense, 3 sense, 4 sense, and 5 sense beings. What are the 2 sense beings? This possess only 2 senses, sense of touch and sense of taste. And the examples are worms, ostriches, leeches, conches, etc. These forms of life, they are 2 sense beings, they have only 2. So they have a sense of touch, and sense of taste means they can eat. If they have a sense of touch, they can eat. Worms can eat, and so on. Then there are 3 sense beings which possess 3 senses. The sense of touch, taste, and smell. 3 senses, such as bugs, lice, ants, moths, etc. They are the examples of 3 senses. The ants, have 3 senses, So the ants have smell. They have a very strong sense of smell, So they have 3 senses. Then there are 4 sense beings. They possess sense of touch, taste, smell, and vision. Eyes, they have eyes. For example, flies, and so on. So the insects, which are flying, they are 4 sense beings, So they also have sense of vision, that is, they have eyes. Then we have 5 sense stuff, 5 sense beings, The 5 sense beings will have all the 5 senses: touch, taste, smell, vision, and hearing. They can also hear. They have ears, The examples are, there are 3 kinds: aquatic animals, those which are living in water. So, for example, fish, crocodile, whale, etc. These animals which are found in water, they are aquatic animals, and they are 5 sense beings. Terrestrial animals like cows, elephants, tigers, snakes, all these beings which are found on land are 5 sense beings. Then aerial beings, birds, bats, etc. These flying animals, flying birds, they are 5 sense beings. Then the 5 sense beings are again classified in 2 categories. One which have mind, and another class which do not have mind. So those 5 sense animals which have mind are called samanask, they have mind, or sangi jiva. And without mind, they are called asangi or amanask jiva. Mind is not an indriya, it's not a sense organ. It does not directly come in contact with the object, It's a very subtle thing. And mind is of two types, physical mind and psychical mind. The physical mind is made of subtle matter. It again is present in our body. And the psychical mind is a part of our soul, And the mind is doing all the mental activity. And those jivas which are endowed with mind have rationality, They have a sense of analyzing things, rationality. They can think. Those living beings which do not have mind do not have a thinking ability. So all the living beings up to 4 senses do not have mind, and therefore they do not have a thinking ability. That does not mean that they do not think, but there is a separate mechanism, separate way in which they exercise that kind of operation, but they do not have mind as such. Human beings are also 5 sense beings. The animals are also 5 sense beings with mind, but there is a difference between the animals and human beings. The mind of human being is underdeveloped or not very much developed, whereas the mind of human being is highly developed. So the human beings have a great property of rationality. They can think, they can imagine, they can plan, they can do so many things, with mind, It is because of the mind which makes us exceptional living being. It is because of the power of the mind that we are so much different and so much higher, at a higher level than the normal animals. And all 5 sense beings will have brain. So we have brain, animals have brain, fish have brain, birds have brain. All 5 sense beings will have brain. So, but brain and mind are different. Remember, mind is not brain, as scientists normally assume. This is not accepted in general. Mind is a different entity from brain. And lastly, there is a concept of prana. All living beings have prana, which is in a subtle energy form. And without prana, there is no life. No life is possible without prana. And the prana also exists, In our case, it exists in the form of another body, which we'll talk later. But the prana is the essential component of every life. So today, we had talked of soul, what is soul, how it is different from body, and what are the different kinds of souls and so on. In the next class, we will talk of karma. Thank you.